Hello, welcome or welcome back. My name is Jo, and this is the Spanish Media Diary series where I talk about all of the books, TV shows, movies, etc. that I have been consuming in Spanish, or things that were made in Spanish primarily. So let's start with movies. I've been on a bit of a movie kick lately. The first movie that I watched was El Secreto de sus Ojos. I did talk about this in a vlog. This is an Argentinian crime investigation kind of movie where we are following the detective who is trying to solve a very brutal sexual assault and murder. So this movie definitely has very big content warnings, but I did really love this movie. It is primarily about the investigation, not about like violence, but there definitely is violence in the movie. It kind of talks about like the failures of the system a bit as these investigators are trying to get the time and attention that they need basically to be able to work on this case. And yeah, I thought that this was a really good movie. Next we have La Mala Educación, and this is a Spain movie. It's by the very famous director Almodovar, I think. I didn't love this movie, so it's a very creative and interesting movie, and I think that it does some things really well, but I just wasn't convinced necessarily that all of the choices that it made had a good enough purpose. So we are following two young adults who knew each other as children in a very religious, very strict school during the fascist regime, and the priest at this school was molesting children, and so it's kind of following them as adults, kind of dealing with or not really dealing with the consequences of this, the emotional impact and everything. They work or are trying to work in film as adults, and so you're also kind of following along this script that one of them wrote in an attempt to make a film. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting movie. If you've watched it, I would love to hear your thoughts. Then I watched La Lengua de las Mariposas. This is another Spain movie talking about this one is set right before kind of descent into fascism. And we are following a family, primarily their very young son in Galicia, who is just starting school. His teacher is this older gentleman who really does want to, inspire kids to educate themselves, to learn, to think about things critically, etc. While you're following the school life, you're also following the family. It's like a quiet, contemplative movie that does kind of pack a punch as far as talking about society and how easy it is kind of to not stand up for things that you believe in. And yeah. Okay, just one series. I watched El Eternauta. This is an Argentinian series that is based on a comic, which I did not realize, so now I want to read that as well. This is a sci-fi kind of apocalyptic show that follows a bunch of characters, but primarily one character, while the whole Earth is kind of brought to a standstill because of this snow that falls, and the air becomes toxic, so kind of the vast majority of people just die instantly. So they are, trying to survive. Things progress from there. I really liked this show, and it is greenlit or whatever for a second season, so I'm very excited about that. It's only 6 episodes, so a quick watch, and I thought it did a really good job addressing how people would be in an apocalyptic setting, that there would be people who try to help people, there would be people who try not to help people, etc. And one of the reviews that I saw was like, thank God they didn't try to make this about teenagers or whatever. And that is so true. So many apocalyptic shows are about teenagers, and so it was, nice to have regular adults or a variety of ages, I guess. So yeah, highly looking forward to the second season of that one. Books, we have The first book was Boulder by Eva Baltazar. This is actually a book written in Catalan, translated into Spanish, but I'll include it because, culturally, if you're trying to learn Spanish, the minority languages or indigenous languages of Spanish-speaking countries are still important to engage with. So this book, unfortunately, I really strongly disliked. So this is following a woman who is kind of a cook on a ship for like the majority of the beginning of the book, and she really, really values that kind of solitary, hardworking life. But eventually she meets and falls in love with, allegedly, this other woman, and they kind of progress on in their lives together, and things unfold from there. It's a very slow-moving, very literary book. It's not a very long book, and it talks about, people kind of wanting different things from their lives. Do you want kids? Do you not want kids? Etc. But it doesn't really talk about any of that in like an open way. It's all very metaphorical. Like, I appreciate the idea of telling the stories of, non-traditional characters who are, assholes a little bit, but I just didn't enjoy reading it. I really hated the main character. I thought that she and her partner should not have been together, so there was absolutely nothing about any of this that I cared about, because I just was like, well, you guys should break up. Like, you should go back to your ship and do what you actually want to do with your life. Like, I thought that the way that they talked about each other as a couple was like horrific. It just was not something I enjoyed reading whatsoever. Unfortunately, another book that I didn't love, but not nearly as much dislike as for Boulder, I read Invisible by Eloy Moreno. This is a very, very, very popular YA book in Spain. It is everywhere. It was fine. It's about bullying, and so you're following the main character who was being bullied, but the way that the story is told, you are in multiple different perspectives of different people who were involved in one way or another, either him or his friends or his bully or anyone else involved. It's all told very artistically, or an attempt to be artistic, so for the most part people don't have names. They're just referred to by some kind of identifier, like the girl with all the bracelets or stuff like that. To me, granted, I don't have a ton of experience with bullying in general, thankfully, and almost none with bullying in Spain. So perhaps I'm just not familiar with how this generally goes here. The way that he wrote the actual bullying and the way that everyone responded to it just did not ring particularly true for me. And not that I think that these things don't go unchecked. Absolutely I do. I don't know. The whole thing just did not ring overly true to me. And it was very, very overly cinematic or something in the way that he wrote it. But it was very easy to read. I was kind of in a reading slump when I read this, and I really didn't have any trouble kind of breezing through this book really quickly. So in that way, there is something to that, because I wanted to know what happened, even if I didn't necessarily think any of this was realistic. The chapters are super short. It served a purpose, but I'm not sure it served the purpose it was trying to serve. And then finally, we have a successful read. We have La Última Sirena by Eva Millet. This is another Catalan author, but I think this one was written originally in Spanish. And this is another, it's probably not YA, it's probably more middle grade. But we are following a young girl who has always had this very high achieving, high status kind of life, where she does all the after school activities and academies and sports things and camps, and just has had a very privileged but also very taxing life. And her parents have a big, financial change for the worse. And so she kind of, in a very, very short period of time, her life changes dramatically. And instead of doing all of those kind of activities over the summer, she is sent to live with her uncle on a very remote island. Life there is very quiet, very tranquil. She really doesn't have anything to do other than just play all day long. She's like 12, I think. I really, really loved that aspect of it, of just hearkening back to your childhood, and for me at least, would just lose myself for like entire days reading, playing outside, like not to like, you know, idylify, not to like flatten my childhood down to like a, you know, positive experience, but there are aspects of that ability to just exist that I have certainly lost, and I wish that I, you know, put more effort into regaining those. So I really appreciated that. And then also there's a lot of discussion of like environmental issues, of kind of the presence of humans in the ecosystem and the attitude that we bring to that, etc. So really, really liked this book. This is a duology, and I did immediately get the second one so that I can read that one. If you are interested in reading Spanish books or any other language, I do have free book clubs on my Patreon. Everything is free, so you can join that below, and you get to vote on a Spanish book club and a multilingual book club every month. Then I have one Instagram recommendation. I will have the spelling on the screen here. She makes the most incredible recommendation posts for authors, specifically often Latin American or, you know, Hispanohablante authors. So from each country, she will have a post or multiple posts with like 10 plus authors with specific books of theirs. I am trying to read from every country in the Spanish-speaking world, and so her posts have been so helpful for finding authors from countries that I haven't read from yet. Highly, highly recommend. Then on YouTube, if you like kind of vloggers, chatty type videos, then I definitely recommend Berenice. This is an Argentinian girl who is currently doing like working holiday visas. So she was in New Zealand and now I believe is still in Germany. And so she just makes videos talking about her experience working and living in these countries, and I really love her voice and her accent, and so yeah, it's good listening to hear her chat about all of these things. Then if you enjoy playthrough videos, I highly recommend the Gabo. I have watched through his Little Nightmares playthrough. He's now doing the second one. I watched a bunch of the Plucky Squire playthrough. I have and want to play The Cult of the Lamb, so I'm not going to watch his playthrough, but maybe after I play it, I might watch it. He's such a good mix of entertaining to watch, like his reactions can be really funny, but he's not like too much. You know, some gameplay people are just really aggressive, and it can just be kind of like exhausting to watch them, where I find his really almost kind of relaxing to watch. And then Cindy Sims PR is another content creator about games. She makes more so like reviews and more talking videos about games, and obviously I guess from her name you may have deduced she's Puerto Rican. So if you like content about games, most especially kind of cozy games, then I would definitely check out her channel. So that is everything that we have for this episode. If you have recommendations, always feel free to leave them below and I will check them out. And I will see you in the next video.